What's up, everybody? Shawn here with another Live to Roll Live. We're back this week, going to be talking about grant applications and scholarships. So today we have some special guests. We'll get to their introductions in a second. You guys know me. I am Shawn. I'm a C5, C6 quad from a snowboarding accident 17 years ago. Tom, why don't you kick it
What's
off?
up, everybody? You probably all know me, but anybody who's new, welcome. I'm Tom Conaway, C5, C6 Quad as well, down here in Southern California. And I'll pass it over to our other host, Bobby.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tom. What's up, everyone? I'm Bobby Rohan, C5C6 Squad as well, here in Huntington Beach, California. And let's toss it over to our returning guest, Spencer.
Hey, thanks guys for having me back. This is awesome. I'm Spencer Larimore. I'm from Boise, Idaho. I'm a C6 quadriplegic from a 2000 mountain biking accident.
All right.
And
Glad to be
Let's
last
back.
send,
but not least,
let's send it over
uh,
to our special guest Jennifer here, who is the
awesome.
Hey
coordinator for
guys,
CAF Idaho. Sorry, go ahead.
it's my first time. Thanks for having me. I'm Jen Skeesick. I am the director for Idaho for CAF. I'm also a physical therapist, board certified in sports medicine. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Also,
we're
we're super
very happy to have
tech.
you joining us.
You and Spencer, thank you so much for coming back and getting Jennifer in touch with Shawn and helping make this
Yeah, I brought
possible.
in the pro.
We appreciate it.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, it's
Shawn, you may
always
want
great
to
to
get
have
started.
professionals on here. Yeah, so let's get into just like we're going to be talking about. We're going to get into a lot of the adaptive sports grants and stuff because that's really what CAF Challenge Athletes Foundation for people that don't know. That's what CAF is. We're going to get into a lot more of that here, but we're just going to talk just a quick general knowledge on some grants for right now because there are grants available for all different things, not just adaptive sports stuff. You can get stuff just even for home modifications. We mention Triumph Foundation on here all the time because Tom, Bobby, and I are all ambassadors for the foundation, and Bobby's actually on the board as well. So that we do a lot of different grants for just people coming out of the hospital that might need something that's not paid for by insurance and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff available out there. So where, if you guys, I'll just throw it out to everybody out here. If you are looking for a grant, where's the first place to start looking? Or just like Bobby, you've gotten a few grants. Tom, I mean, where did you guys start? Spencer?
Google.
Google.
Google was my start. I first started applying for grants and looking for it. So for anybody that maybe is also unfamiliar with what a grant is, generally I believe it's like federally funded money that's given to certain populations in need to stimulate, you know, certain, aspects of the economy and things like that. But grants are very often available for individuals with disabilities that might have a greater cost associated with home modifications or things related to their disability that might make quality of life easier, and especially equipment that allow them to adapt to whatever it is they want to do. So very often there are organizations or groups with grants for specific purposes, like the Challenge Athletes Foundation, which is generally for adaptive sporting equipment for individuals with disabilities. But what we're talking about is the kind of the larger scope is organizations like the Triumph Foundation, who does grants for lots of different things from home modifications to wheelchairs, anything and everything disability related, vehicles, things like that. How about we toss on over to Bobby and he can talk about Triumph grants a little bit more, if you don't mind.
yeah, Sean opened up the big question, where do you start? And Tom, that is a good thought. Yeah, start with Google. Also, one thing I always um, big component, look into your community first. See what's around in your area, in your state. Usually being in your state, in your community does help out big. It's helps out with when we're looking at applications at Triumph Foundation because we are not multi-million big foundation. that we have to kind of look and kind of weed through some of it. So being local, being somebody we know, somebody that we can go do a story on, maybe film, it does help being a little bit local. So I've been on two boards for the last 25 years, and we always kind of were smaller, where we're looking at the local area as where we're going to look at funding those types of grants. Obviously, we're looking at somebody that is willing to completely, and Jennifer, you can probably go into this big time as you might be looking at grants, but complete applications. Everything that the application is asking for, please make sure you have it in detail. 2 quotes, 3 quotes, 3 letter of references, you name it. Make sure that you have it. Cross your T's, dot your I's, and submit a complete application with a purpose. That is also a huge thing, not just I need it and I'm hoping you can do it kind of thing. So I stress on that kind of filling out those applications, and I'm sure we'll harp on it more and talk about it more with Jennifer and Spencer. I have not done anything personally until just recently, so I have made sure I did all those completed tasks beforehand and make sure I got them what they need before submitting my grant. And then when I submitted my grant, I looked for somebody that would be my criteria, be um, somebody that might be able to take interest in looking at me and wanting to accept what I have trying to apply for. So those are just some tips and how I start and how I, always kind of tell somebody new, like kind of look in your area, then let's look abroad and let's look something that fits your criteria.
And
I
I'm
know.
glad Bobby mentioned the local thing. When I've received a few grants in my life, but probably the most significant one was a local grant from a group and organization. It was I grew up in Sonoma. We have a bunch of wineries. It was actually a winery and a winery owner that gave me a grant for a bunch of adaptive film equipment. Because film was my passion at the time, and it was kind of a unique thing. But I put together the request or whatever, and like looked at your local Rotary Club. Generally, put you in touch with businesses that have extra and are willing to help out, and that's kind of how it happened for me. So local resources can be really, really great. So definitely check out what is around you. What other types of grants are out there? Grants and scholarships. The other thing that I really received a lot of funding for was my education. That was kind of my main focus, majority of my life to recently. I was just academics in school, and when it came to college, I really had this ambitious idea of moving out. I wanted to just flap my wings a little bit. My parents had been taking care of me, all my life, and I've been injured for most of my life. And I wanted to, not just for me, partly for them too, to just have some space and some freedom to, live our lives. And I wanted to know if I could do it. Independence was a scary mountain to climb for me. And it wasn't without the funding and the support that I received. Now, again, this is a lot of local scholarships I got right out of high school for junior college, which paid for almost all my JC. And then the state funding really came and helped in through the Department of Rehab. At least here in California, I know there are other similar programs in different states, but for me, the Department of Rehabilitation funded 100% of my education, every aspect of it, and they do aspects like transportation. They'll, pay for modified vehicles. They'll pay for whatever public transportation you might have to take, and all costs associated with that. And it doesn't have to just be academic, like college. They do vocational training in all respects, but you have to have an idea of what you want to do, and like Bobby said, a focus and a purpose. But that was really astounding organization that really catapulted me towards independence because it took away the academic burden and helped out some other elements and really allowed me to allocate my resources to independent living and figuring out that, which was awesome and amazing.
Yeah. We had somebody in the chat also just mentioned that new to using a wheelchair, and they need their home fix and wheelchair ramp and stuff. So that's just like we were saying. You want to look in your local areas, try to find a foundation that's in your area, maybe. Um, and there are grants and stuff for that. Like that's what Triumph does, but Triumph is more Southern California, locally based. But there are foundations just like that all over the country. So it's just important to use those
Um,
resources and check.
and John, we were talking about before, just to like shout out some other organizations. United Spinal is another big one. I do not know. Did the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation have a grant program?
I
Do you know?
actually am not 100% sure because when I looked up grants, they didn't come up when I was researching earlier, um,
Okay.
but I'm not
Now,
sure. So.
Spence, let's toss it over to one of our guests. Spence, what's your experience with grants? Have you received
Yeah,
any in your time that you've been disabled?
Yeah, yeah. So I got involved in wheelchair rugby back in like 2008, and when I first started, they had house chairs, and then once we wanted to go to tournaments and stuff, we needed our own chairs to go, you know, travel with and stuff. So some of my teammates had their own chairs, and they explained to me, hey, if you sign up for or apply for a CAF grant, you can get most of your chair paid for, and then boom, you got your own gear. So that was my first experience with that, and just writing a letter to your have your doctor give you a recommendation, have your coach give you a recommendation, and then a friend. So you have to get three kind of recommendations. You have to write your own letter, be specific, like the other guy, kind of have a
Yeah.
purpose, and uh,
yeah,
and then you go through the process, and then they end up giving you or accepting your grant, and then they give you a check to the company you're buying your chair from or whatever, and it usually covered about 2/3 of the grant, and nowadays you can piggyback grants. And when I first found out about the grants, is all I knew was the CAF grant. There might have been more, but now you can get like a Kelly Brush grant on top of that CAF grant to piggyback and pay for all of it. But yeah, those grants helped a ton. And at first I thought it was just for that kind of equipment, and later on I found out you could get it for hand cycling. You can get them for
yeah.
travel grants. I believe the equipment grants, Jennifer, they're only 3 years, right? Every 3 years you can apply.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, for the CAF equipment grants, we do have that those can happen every 3 years for anyone across the country and really across the world. Um, and then, but within that, there's the travel grants to get to competition, to pay for registration, also for coaching. So that's one
Wow.
thing people don't think about, and we saw a lot during COVID, is that people were asking, well, I can't go compete. Can I use my funds to get some at-home workout equipment or, get some coaching or something like that? And so we saw people being really creative. So really we have like three buckets at CAF. They all have to be sport related. I mean, that part hasn't changed, but really a lot of flexibility in where those funds go to make sure that everybody's able to pursue sports at, the level that they're really looking to do it.
Jennifer, can you expand on Challenge Athletes Foundation, where it started, and the primary focus? You just said sports related, but a little bit of a history on Challenge Athletes Foundation.
Yeah. So CAF, Challenge Athletes Foundation, is 27 years old, and it was founded because one man had significant injury after already being an amputee, but then he was injured again in a triathlon and became a quad. And Jim McLaren needed a van with hand controls, and his friends held a triathlon and raised some money to buy him that van, and that was a long time ago. And what they discovered is that because of insurance coverage not covering all the specialized equipment, which we all know really well, that it's not included and it is very expensive. That's where the foundation started. It was really so that we could relieve some of the financial burden on just people wanting to pursue sports. And so 27 years later, I think we're like $100 million in on grants all over the
Wow.
world. And and right now it's about 6 million, a little over $6 million go out each year in grants to our
Wow.
athletes. So it's a especially for you guys like that are competing and pursuing things, very well that even if it's just covering travel expenses for your team, that's one less thing you have to worry about. And so it's a really, really big deal. But
Now,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
incredible.
that's kind of the crux of the grant program.
you use the word competing. Can it be for just recreational use?
Absolutely, yeah, Bobby. Thank you. A lot of times I hear people say like, "I'm not an athlete." I'm like, "Yeah, you are." Right? Like, you're doing something. You're doing more than the couch potato. So let's go. So it's anybody that's pursuing physical activity. I mean, last grant cycle for us was 103 sports. I don't know
Wow.
where you get to 103, right? I mean, it's the mom who wants to be able to go hike with her kids in the foothills, to the rugby teams, to wheelchair basketball, and then all the non-traditional sports in between, like paddle boarding and mountain biking. Even if you're not competing in mountain biking, but you're going out for a ride with your friends 3 times a week, like Spencer does. It's like you don't have to then come back to CAF and say, and here's my medal from this competition. It's not like there's this loop where you have to prove that you used the really expensive piece of equipment to go win something, right?
Yeah.
We just want people to get out, and I think that's all the organizations. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, is sometimes piggybacking grants because of these really expensive pieces of equipment. Really, we're all just trying to get people active, and knowing the power of that in so many aspects of life. So let's work together and get it done, and be creative if we have to. But yeah, it truly is whatever somebody wants to pursue. I mean, Muffy Davis, she's a Paralympian in multiple sports, and she said it best. She's like, you pick what you want to do, and then these organizations help you get there. Um, and that's really why grants exist, right? For
Yeah,
daily living and
That's
for sports. I think it's both.
yeah, no,
absolutely.
definitely. That's cool.
Now I have a question. What's the time frame of this grant process? Like, let's say I submit an application for a piece of equipment. How long am I looking to get a response and potentially get the equipment?
Yeah. So for CAF, grant cycle's open right now. It is open through November, and I think you guys are going to have some links with this, so it'll have all the informational like fact sheets and all of that, which has the dates. So you guys will be able to
Absolutely.
get that. Um, so when grant cycle's open, everyone, and I know there's a question about is it worldwide? Yes, athletes with permanent physical limitation anywhere in the world can apply for a CAF grant. I know the other organizations that we um, kind of have a synergy with have different grant cycles than us, and so we'd have to link up those websites as well. But once our grant season closes, we actually read every single one of those grant packets. So please know that I rattled off some big numbers, but there is CAF staff reading every single one of those applications and all the pieces of them. And then our announcements normally go out right at the beginning of April. Um, and that really is for the rest of the year. So that's one thing I do tell people for our national grants. Make sure you're kind of planning out what you're thinking for the rest of the year, because you do want to be a little bit ahead on that one. If you're applying for an Operation Rebound grant, which is our veterans and first responders, that is all year long. So those guys can apply just kind of in time, but um, everybody else has like that fixed grant season for CAF grants.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think.
understand. I was gonna say I
Go,
understand you guys in the Idaho division. You guys don't have that same window, or you guys are year round from talking to Spencer. I gathered.
Yeah,
You're
I'll let
lucky.
Spencer there since I'm hogging. But yeah, Idaho gets
Yeah, you're
spoiled
good.
a
You're
little
good.
bit.
Yeah, the Idaho program's awesome, especially with working with the Boise Bombers. Whenever I need something for the Bombers, I hit up Jennifer and she hooks us up. It's you don't have to wait all that time. It's an end of the month kind of a thing. So yeah, it's a huge benefit for us here in Idaho that we've got our own chapter. And they do a ton of work for us. The first time I worked with Jennifer, we had a wheelchair rugby tournament here at a Boys and Girls Club, and she came out, set up a booth. They covered all of our awards, and she gave out information about the CAF grants and stuff to other athletes that came in and to watch the games and stuff like that. And it was great. She helped out the whole time, and anything we needed, it was just like, hey, here you go. No
That's
problems.
incredible.
It was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's really
And
cool.
I have one more question for Jennifer. Is there anything, that might not make somebody qualify, or when somebody gets not approved, what are usually those cases? Is it in my case, I'm always kind of, and I just tried one through Kelly Brush, and I'm just kind of worried. I thought maybe I have too much in the bank and a couple of investments that might hinder me. I don't know if there's anything that hinders when people are applying for challenge athletes or anything else.
Yeah, Bobby, those are great questions. So I would say, at its core, first of all, someone has to have a permanent physical limitation. So sometimes we do see things coming in where somebody's struggling, and honestly, they're struggling, right? But it's not a permanent situation. So that is one part of it. Um, the second part would be financial need, and I would say, with that one, that's really more in terms of what's being asked. So you mentioned, is it investments and things like that? We really look at what is that monthly amount coming in, and if somebody's asking for a ginormous piece of equipment, we may just not fund the entire thing. Does that make sense? So we have to just kind of make some
Yeah,
decisions.
yeah,
Um,
and something that always worries me is always like, yeah, I might be able to get it, but it's still, with how much it costs of living, especially I live in Southern California, so we're already at a
yeah.
disadvantage. And, I just, to drop something that big when it comes to over the thousands, you're like, oof.
Completely agree. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, and then the third thing I would say is what we're seeing there's a lot of powered equipment coming out, and this doesn't include power chairs for soccer. This is more like bow heads or some of the fully battery powered activities that we're starting to see kind of recreationally, especially in Idaho. Um, we're the stance we're taking in grants is that we want everyone to have an element of physical load. So here I am talking as a PT again, right? But like, we want you doing something physically. So that machine, whatever it is, that piece of equipment, yes, e-assist bikes are great. So, but you're also pedaling. So perfect. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, if everybody's just cruising around on a razor, that's not really getting us where we really want to go
Right.
on the sports side. I think there are organizations that are starting to come forward for that, but that technology is so new that we might see a little bit of a lag in grants for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'm trying for a striker, so it's that powered
Yeah.
and man, so it's I want to keep working, but after 32 years in a chair, it's you know I'm like need a little bit of assistance, but I don't want full.
Yeah. Yep.
One
There's a
one thing
balance.
Yeah.
they're gonna have to, one thing we're gonna have to check on that, Jennifer, is like I understand like the bowhead. I've seen them in action and stuff, and it is basically an electric motorcycle for people in wheelchairs or whatever. But
Sounds cool.
say someone at like C5 or 4, uh, someone that really can't pedal a whole bunch. But
Yep.
being on this thing, they'd have access to all kinds of different trails and stuff like that. And just being on that thing is going to be a tremendous workout, just
Yeah.
handling that thing. So, I could see like maybe not giving that to a para for that reason, but the high level quad, they I think that would still be in the criteria.
Yeah.
I've got a friend that's a C4 quad, and he played rugby for a little bit, and it just tore him up. But he's on a hand cycle, but not a pedal cycle. It's all power. It's like a go kart for him, but and it's a serious workout for him, even though. And then one other thing I wanted to mention when it came back to the what you can get disqualified. My first application for a CAF grant was denied because I was married at the time, and my wife made a decent paycheck, I guess. And so I was denied on my first CAF grant, but marriage didn't work out, and I reapplied for a chair, and I got my chair. So there are
the grant
some things
worked
that
out.
happen. I know a lot of people have gotten divorced. They still live together so that they can still have their their disability insurance and money coming in. Because
That's
if
a
you're
whole
married,
nother like unfortunate side to this disability thing is like the
Yeah.
spousal benefits and stuff that comes into
it
play. Yeah,
it put me in the butt.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think my wife's gonna fall for, hey, let's get divorced just so I can get, you know, after 17
well, that
years.
wasn't the cause of the divorce.
The best thing you can do though is make sure you're educated on this stuff. Do your research, do your research on the type of grant that you're asking for, the organization that's granting you this. Understand the criteria, the income brackets that may eliminate you, or disqualify you from and stuff. Just make sure you're informed, and maybe if you do have the opportunity, speak to other individuals who have applied for the grant before, maybe even got it. But we always talk about on this podcast is information is power, knowledge is everything when it comes to this stuff, and it could just save you time. And make sure you're putting your energy in the right place and towards the right thing and the right grant, rather than the wrong one.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why we're doing
Shawn,
this podcast, is to educate, right?
Shawn, I wanted to go
Exactly.
back to, I think it was Cedric in the chat. He said something about a ramp. He got a new power chair, and it doesn't hold his ramp. And something I wanted to say was, he's from South Carolina, I believe. Look at local Boy Scouts. They're always looking for projects like that.
That's a good
Look
idea.
at the so I when I worked for not Triumph but before Triumph, we used to reach out to the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, and ask, hey, do you guys need a project for a ramp? And that's, instead of our foundation forking out the money, we would ask them, and oftentimes they were like, yep, we need it, we got to get that badge. And they often built these ramps and modified a couple small things around the house for people. So look at that. Also look at the Rotary Club. Going to some Rotary clubs and seeing if they have some extra cash. It's because it's local and they want to help out local people.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
I've
right.
also heard
Rotary clubs are
universities
great. Go ahead.
universities help a lot with that too. I had a friend get an elevator, a lift built from his basement to the upper level from an engineering class
Whoa.
at the university, and they built it for him. It was their project, and bam, he didn't have to pay much for it at all. So it's a little thing, hit up universities as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny. I think kind of the point to what Bobby and Spencer just said is sometimes you got to get creative. You got to get creative, and creativity is okay. But very often there are lots of people out there that want to help and are more than willing to. It's just a matter of being the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. You gotta be that chirping bird and make sure people hear you, and it gets out there. But don't be afraid to get a little creative when it comes to this stuff. But if it's okay if I bogart the conversation for a second, me and Mason both have a similar situation. He says he's in an electric wheelchair and he would like to get a manual chair to do exercise. Now, I am also in an electric wheelchair. I previously, through my insurance, was eligible to get a power chair and a manual chair. But insurance standards have changed and I am only eligible for one chair. My tie light has several cracks in the frame and isn't safely usable, and it's an older frame, so they're saying that the only way I can get it fixed is to just get a brand new chair. But I need to get a new power chair as it's kind of my daily. It's 5 years old. I'm up for a new one, and I need to get one now. I'm really was like during the pandemic trying to get in my manual chair and get out and do some exercise in it. I unfortunately didn't have much opportunity to do that. Now, I'm also struggling with my insurance. Is the Challenge Athletes Foundation possibly someone that could help me out with like a standard manual chair, or is it only like exercise?
Yeah. Tom, this is a great question. I mean, I think that's I think that's again, it goes back to Bobby's point of when you fill out the application, like make a case, right? Typically, we'd say no. Like manual chairs are paid for by insurance, the end, right? I'm just being very frank. Like that's
Yeah,
typically how you
absolutely.
get it.
Yeah.
But if the purpose is so that you are stronger, that you are getting that cardiac load, all those great things are happening through exercise, and the manual chair is the mechanism to do that, that
Yeah.
makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's why our application has free cells, right? It's not just a bunch of drop downs that say, we just want to know how old you are and what sport you're going to do and what you want. But really, it gives you an opportunity to tell the story. So I would absolutely drop that in there.
Okay, very cool. There you go, Mason. You and I, we got our answers. Appreciate it, Jennifer.
And I'm sure it doesn't hurt to apply. And, like even if it's not Challenge Athletes Foundation, try to apply to a few. And,
Yeah.
maybe they're willing to give you just a little bit and you can piggyback a few of them and
Yeah, well, that's what I
help your
plan on
cause.
doing. I plan on applying for a grant through Triumph as well. Like, I know they, get a lot of used chairs and things like that. And I'm just looking for not something that I necessarily need to use every day, but something that I can get into once or twice a week and, go and push a couple miles. Like my boy Bobby, does inspire me every day over here with his long pushes. But, that's what I want to use it for is, get out there and be able to push, push a couple miles with my buddy Bobby and Shawn instead of rolling along in my power chair, feeling like a lazy bum.
Come on, Tom. Tom, you can do 13.1. If I can, you
Hey, I
can.
got you, man. I got you. I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna get my chair first, and I'll be out there with you. I promise.
See, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I work out pretty regularly, but I don't know if I could do a straight, like a 13-mile push without
Oh, you good.
like.
Let's
Hey,
just say
Bobby's been paying for a year. Okay,
Maybe.
we got to work up to it, Shawn. We got to work up to it.
I was dead tired on Thursday after that. I have to admit, I woke up like I was, and then I was moving slow. So I as good a shape as you can be in. 13.1 was even far. One thing I wanted to shout out, kind of, Shawn did the legwork for you guys a little bit, and he put in all those links below. So if you look in that underneath the chat, and you can find the description to our YouTube today. He put in the Kelly Brush Foundation. He put in the High Five Foundation. He put in Challenge Athletes Foundation websites, and to check them out and look at what it takes. And just like Jennifer mentioned, have a purpose, explain your case, be that lawyer that wants to win that case, and look at what it takes for goals. Something to think about with a manual chair, Tom. One thing I did for myself, just because I wanted to do it but I needed a goal. I needed a purpose. And I went online and I found a virtual race that was set, and it was for coaching in a way for running. And it was like, hey, complete first a 5 mile. And you could ask questions in coaching. So I did the 5K. Then I did a 10K. Then I did 10 miles. And then last week I did the 13.1, all in my manual chair. and I completed one, submitted the times, there were goals. And I'm sure if you're stating it in some form that way, like this is what I'm setting out to do before I turn when I turn 50, like I did. Maybe they might do something.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like because I know a big part of it is like the letter and your purpose and stuff. So Spencer, I know you have helped with multiple letters because you coach and help with the Boise team. What are some tips you guys can give besides just obviously giving you a distinct purpose and stuff, but like what other little things are important to mention and stuff? Like anything else we should
Yeah, some of the
you
things to
like?
mention. If you they like you, like if you're ever on interviewed by the media or anything like that, they like you to drop the CAF. That you got
Right.
your gear through them. They like you to wear their shirts and stuff so that when you're photographed, they get their name out there. You're running in, or you're pushing in their gear. Give them some props back. But yeah, and on the letters and stuff, I just tell those guys to you know write a good story, to sell yourself, and I'll sell you back because I've got to write a letter back, so I always, put in some highlights of what these people do, what their goals are, how they've helped the team, and, those kind of things. And, if anybody needs any advice, feel free to message me. I'll even, write a letter for you if you give me a good enough story back to me. I get to know you a little bit through that story. I can advance that off as a, like maybe a coaching letter in one of these, because you need one from your doctor, you need a coach, and then a friend referral. So three letters from three different people. It sometimes it seems like a lot of work, but it really isn't. You can use all these letters for all these different foundations that you're getting the piggyback grants for, and just put in a little bit of work. It's it's not free money, but it's pretty close to it. You
Yeah,
gotta do a little bit of work to get there.
I mean, the money is it's free out there, but you do have to put in the work. You have to put in your legwork.
Yeah.
You have to put in that time. So, and so that's another thing. So Jennifer, the three letters, like you mentioned, that's you always, is that pretty much standard across the board? You need a doctor, a friend, and your
Yeah,
personal.
we've kind of converted the doctor one a little bit more just to verify someone's permanent physical limitation, right? So it can even be just like the front page of a doctor's note that has the diagnosis code or something, like just to verify. Because again, with our grant money going across the world, we can't know everyone like I know Spencer, right? I can't just vouch for him when I'm reading his applications. And so that just really helps us have some quality control inside of the application process. And then the one thing I was going to add, sometimes we say, well, who do people reach out and say, well, who should write my letter? And I'm like, well, if you're involved in sports or athletics, you should have a community of people that are just wanting to write that letter. Like Spencer's offering to write letters for people. Because really, I think the one thing, and I wish that I had thought of this, Bobby, when you asked me the question about anytime we deny someone, we want to know somebody's going to use that equipment. If it's a $3,000 hand cycle, I get really sad when it's sitting in somebody's garage, or out on their porch. So you know, make sure in there there's a plan. Either I want to try this out and I've gone to a clinic and it went great and it was really fun and I want to do more of it and I need a bike to be able to do that. Or I want to complete a half marathon and I need this piece of equipment to be able to do that. And I'm committed. So that's what I would say needs to come through on those letters too, is that there's somebody that's going to be your accountability buddy on that, to say, I'm training with them, or I've seen them in action and they're serious. Those sorts of things really help.
Yeah, I've seen several individuals come out to our Triumph, adaptive rec events and, our hand cycle events. And, for 6 months, they'll come out, every couple of weeks and do the hand cycles. And then, be like, man, this is awesome. I've done it, a dozen times. Like, I want to get my own bike, like, here's my experience. Like, here's been my experience with it. It's like, it's something you talk about if you've been doing it for, 6 months or a year or whatever, and you've had several experiences, you can generally convey that excitement, generally convey your experience and be like, hey, this was awesome. This is why I want to do it more. So I really encourage individuals to get out there and push themselves, attend some adaptive rec events, and try some different stuff out. It's physical activity. It's like something you're interested in, and just get your feet wet. We're so blessed here in Southern California, and I'm so grateful to be so close to the Triumph Foundation and have this. But I'm sure, and if not, if there's not anything local to you, see if you can figure out where you can travel, and maybe reach out to the Challenge Athletes Foundation and be like, hey, I need some help traveling to this stuff, and that's where you start. But I really hope that there is some stuff local to you, and if you are definitely listening from SoCal, get out there and hop in a wheelchair rugby chair and start pushing around, and play some bumper cars with your friends and stuff. Get on some bikes, because it's really amazing. I spent 18 years in a chair and didn't do any of this stuff until I moved down here and really, started to get my feet wet. And it's just made me want to do more and push myself more, do more physical activities. So make sure to get out there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Jennifer.
Mention,
Go ahead.
there, like Tom said, there's a lot of scholarships and school grants out there, and that's awesome. One thing that Triumph also has is we have a return to work. So those who want to get back to working, and we have a $5,000 that we give out every quarter for returning to work. And really, when we're reviewing these grants, we're looking at the business plan, the proposal, what they need to get back to work. So Triumph has one, and I'm sure there's many other foundations out there. I would hope that there's other foundations out there doing something similar. So it doesn't always have to be sports related. Also getting on those message boards like carecare.com. So many people like somebody like Spencer might be on there and be able to help and drive you to the right places to find some of these grants that are out there. It doesn't always have to be sports related, and sometimes it can be art related. I know my buddy Richard Bell got a art, grant, and he's selling, pictures that he draws up that are just amazing. And he could have never done it without the grants out there for him going back to art school.
Yeah, I got a grant. I got a grant for film equipment. When I was in high school, like, my passion was cinematography and film, and it wasn't really anything related to, anything other than just like my passion for like the art and stuff. And it was an organization and some individuals that wanted to grant me easier access to my passion, and that was through some equipment that was more usable, and allowed me to elevate my passion to another level. And really, that's what grants are about. I think is like, you're passionate about something, you have a great interest in something, show that off, show your interest, show your passion. And very often there are organizations or individuals like will see that, want to elevate it to the next level, want to help you get to the next level, whatever your passion is, whether it be exercise or whatever it is. Yeah, just like what Bobby said.
So yeah, get out there and check stuff out. Do your research. And I wanted to ask Jennifer one thing. We touched upon like our Triumph stuff. We're doing, we do hand cycle events, rugby events, a lot of different. We have a sports festival coming up. And I know, because I was listening to your podcast earlier that you were on, which there's a link. She was on a podcast with Mission43, which is another Idaho foundation, right? That helps out with you guys. But they mentioned you guys are doing also stuff like that, sports recreation activities and stuff, right? Is that right? You guys, is that just Idaho, or is that a full CAF national thing?
Oh, that's CAF national. So okay. CAF is based out of San Diego, actually, so really close to you guys. There's a bunch of clinics. If people just go on Challenge Athletes Foundation website, you can go to events and you can look at the calendar, and it's got some virtual offerings too, just still rolling over from COVID, just things that people really liked, that anybody can participate. But the in-person stuff is picking up across the country. So we've had some clinics up in the Northeast. We just had a clinic in Atlanta for our amputees, a running clinic. So there's that whole offering is in there. And then you're always invited to come hang out with Spencer and I in Idaho. Our travel grants do cover traveling up here to our clinics. So you don't have to be an Idaho resident to actually get to come to an Idaho clinic. So we ski a lot. We do like cold things. And then
Shawn,
we do a lot
Robbie, we're going. I want to go to
I was
Idaho.
going to say, Spencer,
Yeah,
is this
yeah, no,
a bad idea if we have like these three guys coming together? That might it might
That
not
would be
ever be
pretty-
the same.
We're
But yeah, so I just if people want to go to our website, it really does list out the events very nicely. If anybody's in Southern California, next week is our big triathlon. And there's a bunch of clinics tied to that, so people can go on the website and look at the community weekend. It turns into about a 3-day event, and it's really fun. So that's coming next week, and we'd love to see people from Southern California joining us.
Yeah,
Heck
that's
yeah.
awesome. That's really
This is
cool.
kind of more of a personal question, if you don't mind me asking, Jennifer. How'd you get
Yeah.
involved with CAF? Like, I know you looks like you have a PT background. Is that
That's
how
a-
you? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, really, really long story short, but I was the director of rehab for the big health system here in Idaho. And when CAF was approached to start a chapter in Idaho, that had never been done before. There's no other state chapter like Spencer and I have up here. And so they reached out to me to try to understand how we could find new athletes through the rehab departments. And because of my leadership in that area at the health system, I was their point of contact. And so as we started talking, they were like, "Hey, have you ever thought about just like doing this work, like leaving the clinical ship?" And on my personal side, I have a niece that plays wheelchair basketball, and I had always done a lot with adaptive sports just on my own time. And so it really is kind of my dream job to be able to do these things and get to know people and be that community partner here in Idaho and developing some cool stuff. And we have some really awesome things happening up here. So I keep telling everybody if you want to come for a visit, you might not leave, but it's pretty special.
That's
It
really
sounds
cool.
amazing. Awesome. We really appreciate what you do, Jennifer. It's individuals
Aw.
like you, help make a lot of lives. People in our situation, a lot more improved in some cases. Some really life changing stuff. So really appreciate what you do over at CAF. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I consider it an honor that people let me into their lives. So thank you guys.
Absolutely awesome. Shawn, did we add anything more on the grant stuff that you wanted to touch on? I was just looking through our list of questions we had ready. I do have another little one, if you don't mind. What makes the Idaho, Boise region so specialized with CAF? Like, why do you guys have your own, it seems like it's special out there. What makes it special? Why is
Yeah,
it
it's really
different?
cool.
Spencer, do you want to answer that or you want me to?
I'm not exactly sure why we got it. I'm stoked that we got it.
Yeah.
It seemed to happen for all I know. But the area is great. I mean, we've got all 4 seasons. We've got all the, you can do anything you really want here. You can water ski, you can snow ski, you can mountain bike. We've got 50 miles of greenbelt, paved path along the river where there's food. You can see river surfing, wildlife. I mean, it's great. We even have a rugby team and a basketball team, and they have ice hockey. We've got all kinds of stuff, and CAF Idaho is just kind of, they have their toe in every one of the little niches, and they help out just a little bit. Like, there's weekly bike rides with these guys. They have big events, and Jennifer's at all of them. Everywhere I go, she's there. She's handing out shirts and stuff.
Wow.
Whatever. She's a really, really cool person. We're lucky.
Nice.
I don't know. Tell us, Jennifer, how How
Yeah,
exact? I mean,
the
you can kind
secret
of explain
sauce.
really how you got involved, like why we were chapter before anybody else.
Yeah, we guys, I'll be honest, we only exist because we have a really generous family foundation here in Idaho. So it's an Idaho-based family that noticed that we have a beautiful playground. I think Spencer said it awesome. Like we are
It's
always outside and everyone here is outside. But they noticed that there weren't enough people with disabilities on the trail systems, out on the water, doing all these fun things on the snow. And they wanted to change that. And so they reached out to CAF and said, we want to be bold. We want to fund the whole thing. So that's why it's different. Because the Albertson Family Foundation said they wanted it to be different, and they're allowing us to do it the right way. So if another state wants to come along, it just takes a really generous family and some dedication, and
Well,
we can
lots of love
get
to
that
the
going.
Albertson Family
yeah, that's
Foundation for
incredible. Wow.
just making it happen. In Boise, like in Idaho, because it's got to start somewhere, and someone's got to set the bar and start inspiring these other states to get their stuff together. So it's really really awesome. And heck, Spence, I hope you're ready for a roommate, bro, because I'm almost sold on Idaho. Like I'm about to jump
Yeah,
ship. It's expensive out here in California, dog.
I was gonna say cost of living might be a little better up there.
Yeah.
it's getting bad, but it's
And
still it's awfully nice. So
I wanted to ask you guys one more question too, because I heard that you guys are also getting a facility at some point. Something like we've all from rugby, we've been to the Ability 360 Center in Phoenix, which is a beautiful center. If people that don't know, it's got a court, so an accessible gym, lap track, all different accessibility stuff. So are you guys making something similar? Or
Yeah.
that's
So
good.
the
I'm
ground
letting the cat
actually
out.
broke. Yeah, no, I love it. Let's talk about it. So this past Monday, actually, we broke ground on the
Awesome.
Idaho Outdoor Field House. So we did. We came in and did an on-site visit with Ability 360 and loved everything that was happening there. And so again, this family foundation said, well, there's nothing that really gets people ready to go outside. It felt like a lot of things were really kind of arena based, gym based, those sorts of things. And so what we're hoping is that this facility is the destination for our athletes that are going outdoors. And the plan is to fully equip and prepare people through fitness, but equipment and coaching and all those cool things to then go out and play in this awesome playground and then take that home with them. So again, you don't have to be from Idaho. We will have temporary housing as well. So these really cool apartments that are all have universal design. So all of our athletes can stay in pure comfort on campus. So it's a 7-acre campus. And then we have obviously the indoor facilities, but it's right on the river. It connects to the Greenbelt, which is our path that Spencer was talking about that takes you right along the river for bikes and chairs to roll. It's right at the base of the foothills, so we can mountain bike straight from the property, and then we'll go ski a bunch too. So, yeah, I'll share the link for that too, so people can follow what's happening at the field house. It is scheduled to
Yeah,
open
that.
summer of 23.
Okay, awesome.
Wow.
Well, I
Yeah.
know one to get my plane ticket for because that sounds awesome. Shawn and Bobby, we got to go out and visit that, like make a
Definitely.
video,
Oh,
share it, check.
I definitely would love to check that out once. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so cool.
I wanna go biking on this green belt you guys are talking about.
I know.
Can we shout out some people in the chat real quick? Celtic Bear, I'm not sure if I've seen you in the chat before. If I missed you, I'm sorry, but welcome, thank you. Mason, Morgan, Paul, what's up, my boy John? Um, and then we got Peter. Um, Peter said, I won't let the VA put me in a power chair. I've seen too many vets get lazy and entitled rolling around in their thrones. That can happen. You always got to make sure you keep that physical activity up. You don't want to get lazy in your power chair. Olivia, thanks for joining us. Yes, I did survive Rise Up. I went to a reggae festival this weekend in Las Vegas. I just got back this morning. So she was checking in and making sure I survived the weekend. I did, and it was a ton of fun.
It was Tom's
And
first Vegas trip too. So
Las Vegas trip.
Wow.
Crazy. Um, and Benny Boy, thank you so much for the super chat, man. We appreciate the donation. Um, our main man Ben and Karen Novastar. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the chat. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you guys all for joining. We appreciate you all checking out the show. And all the information and links are down below. If you guys do want to check out anything for CAF, if you're looking for any equipment. Um, and I even have below, I listed a lot of the grant links. And then at the bottom, the one link is actually a website that has a bunch more, like smaller, different grants that are just listed on there. That might be more local for you as well. And I'll try to keep adding to that for people to come back and check.
And our last
Ben.
little thing I like to do, Ben with the $10 donation. You're so awesome, man. You know I gotta keep doing that. Bro.
Yeah, you know. Thank you, Ben.
Every week, Benny boy. But I do have a final question for Spence and Jennifer, if you guys don't mind. We usually I like to try to end the show. You know, if you guys just have any advice, information for anybody out there in a chair, newly injured or otherwise, that maybe, and it could be related to the, give back to the physical stuff or just life advice or whatever. But if we can start with Spence, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just like when I was first injured, I got my first hand cycle just months after my injury, and I had no idea that there were grants that could have helped me with that. I had fundraiser money, which was great from friends, but that money could have gone further into, helping with my house. And then now I'm finding out, well, I could have probably gotten help with my house through other grant money. So, do some research, and if you watch this podcast, check out those links. Help yourself out. It'll propel your fun, and your frustrations will go away. If you don't have to deal with the financial end of some of these things. So.
Yeah, and you get some amazing equipment. So yeah, awesome advice, Spence.
And Jennifer?
Yeah, I would just say surround yourself with guys like this. I mean, what we do at CAF is try to build communities, and sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with the sport and more to do with the people and the conversations that happen on the sidelines or after the ride or after the whatever. And so I think it's just really, really important, especially for our newly injured athletes, to first think of yourself as an athlete, either again or for the first time, and then go find people that want to do that with you. And that might be virtually, but I think that's a really great place to start.
Amazing advice.
That's a great point. That's a great point. When I first went out to rugby and got to hang out with other people that were like me, other quads, that was the first time really. It was empowering. I learned a ton, and that's where I learned about the first CAF grant and how to take advantage of some of these things. So yeah, involving yourself with other people with similar injuries, it helps you in the long run.
Yeah,
don't isolate yourself.
I can't
Rugby for me, same thing, man. Helped me so much. Yeah. Rugby was incredible. Like, changed my life.
Yeah. And it's never too late. I grew up in a small town that was like, a few hours away from any kind of adaptive rec stuff. And I thankfully had active parents, which, kept me going and, kept me busy, and an active family. But even after being in a chair for 18 years and not being involved in any adaptive rec stuff, the first Triumph event I went to changed my life that day. Like, seriously, just being around it, the amount of opportunities that opened up. You're like, hey, you want to go scuba diving? Hey, you want to, come out with me surfing with, Life Rolls On this weekend. Like all the different stuff that I've got to do that I never thought. It just was seriously from being around other individuals, hanging out, talking, and the doors just started to open up. So I cannot reiterate that enough. How important it is to get out in the community, and the disabled community is, I'm just going to say it, the greatest community out there. It's hard pressed to find more love and more support, from individuals that are going through it just like you, So don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to push yourself to get out there. I promise you will not regret it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jen,
Awesome.
you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on here today. we really, really appreciate all the advice and all the amazing information. You guys taking your time. Super, super awesome.
Yeah, we
Also,
Well,
really
we'll see
thanks
you in
appreciate you.
Idaho.
again, Spencer, Jennifer. Thanks to everyone in the chat. And, like I always say every week, I think Tom also says it. Please put that like button and give us that thumbs up. That Shawn puts so much hard work into this and into this channel and getting our guests and keep supplying some great information. And I'm hoping in fact, I don't hope because I see it each week that you guys are enjoying this and getting a lot out of it. So good job, Shawn. So make sure you hit that like button.
Yeah,
And
thank you guys.
if
And
you think anybody might find this video helpful, especially ones like this with the information about the grants and stuff, please don't hesitate to share it around. It helps out the channel, but most of all, hopefully it's helping out some other individuals out there. So the more you share it, the more it helps out everybody, and we really appreciate it.
yep, and we'll be back next Tuesday, like every Tuesday, and then we have the women's show first and third Thursday of the month, 3 p.m. So check that out as well, guys. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you again for watching, and live to roll, everybody.